being a big fan of yours, something I've always wondered, watching the Drumeo videos and all your solos, um, what is your typical practice session like? How do you, when you sit down to practice, what's the thought process?
I have really two modes. I'm still a little sweaty. I just played a little bit, and I now replayed what I would call playing. So I've written a whole book about it. It's called Effective Practicing for Musicians, and I think it's very important to separate playing and practicing. So that's what I do too. Today I did playing. I
Yeah.
did a little bit of practicing in the beginning, but so playing for me is really having fun, not thinking, not analyzing, not criticizing, just like it used to be back in the day. Or for many drummers, they sometimes kind of destroy that when they think they have to be more serious and have to do their homework and
Hmm.
have to do their things. And then they start to criticize everything that they do, and they start to focus on technique and focus on independence and blah, 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 and sometimes forget that they can just sit down and kind of put on a record and play to it, or put on Spotify and play to a playlist and just have fun. And I still do that, and I love that. And that brings me a lot of joy. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, then I have a real practice mode where I have a little book. Do I have it here? I have it in the basement. Where I really set like 3-month goals. I have 3-month cycles where I first analyze where I am right now, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and then define, like, in those, like, I pick the 3 worst fields, or the ones that I want to improve the most, and then I specifically come up with like a goal for the 3 months, and then I work towards that, and I document pretty well. I write down which tempo I chose, which exercise I chose, and I do before and after recordings, actually, to have when I lose motivation after a month or 1.5, and I think, and I still have this after 20 years of doing it this way, that I sometimes think, "Ah, I don't really progress or something." And then it's really great to listen to the first recording when I tried it first, like a month and a half ago, and it might not be there where I want it to be now, in the middle of it, but I found out that it's not really what we need to stay motivated. We don't have to be finished, but we have to see that we really progress, and that it's worth our time, that something happens. And if that's measurable, and that's what I do with these recordings and with the writing down and the journaling, so to speak, then it's a great tool, and it keeps me going, and it gives me also an overview. And it's also a great archive that I can go back to, because we all know that we have to keep things warm. When you don't,
Right.
it is possible, and it's very tough, but it's possible that you practice something, you felt good, you felt fluent, it really was like very like close, and you could just access it. And if you don't touch it, if you don't think about it, if you don't play it for a year or two, it doesn't feel that comfortable anymore. So
Right.
it's also great to kind of be able to go back and see, like, you know what, I'll check what I did last year, and whether that still is working, and what I have to do to bring it back. So, and I try to not mix these two things. So the playing and the practicing are really two very separate things. And I use a timer for the practicing. And then when that's over, I close the book, I do my little check recording, and then I improvise or just have fun or something. And I usually play more than I practice. But when I practice, I try to make it very efficient and very structured, because I'm not a structured person by nature. I have to um, put that a little bit on me to get the most out of it.
What would be your tips on having an effective practice session?
Well, again, I would recommend getting my book. Shameless plug. I'm sorry, but it's almost 200 pages of that. But I'll try to condense it a little bit, or give you an idea. I mean, one thing that's for sure is that you can progress in something, but it's very frustrating if it's not the thing that really serves you. So sometimes you can, a drummer buddy of yours sends you a link, and it's like, oh, check this new exercise, this challenge out, this how to impress your neighbors with your flapping ear in 7 or whatever it is, and then you spend some time, you make progress, but you realize, like, when you then maybe play a gig, or you play to a song, or you try to execute an idea that you have, you feel still stuck, and you feel like, ugh, you cannot play what you want to play. So you can make progress, but you can make progress in the wrong direction, and that's very frustrating, because there is no bigger waste of time than doing something really well that doesn't need to be done at all.
Yeah.
But then there is a false sense of pride. It's like, oh yeah, I've been practicing for 3 hours. It's like, okay, but like, what did you work towards? And so what I mean by that is, what makes drumming or practicing very effective is to first find out the direction you want to go. What is needed? What is really something that would make your playing better? If you could wave a magic wand and just change like 3 things about your playing, just like that, what would it be? Would it be maybe perfect timing? Would it be like better technique? Would it be independence? Would it be, and that's something different for everyone. Some might put on their list sight reading. Some might say like, oh, sight reading, ugh, I don't need that at all. I want double bass, fast double bass, like whatever it is. But it's important that it's your list, and you make kind of this list, and you get an overview, and you analyze yourself and see like, okay, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and what is something that I want to improve? And then I select into exercises that get me closer to what I think is important for me. That's already gives, or whether it's productive or not, but hopefully when it's productive, gives it purpose. And that's very important for motivation, because when motivation is lacking, you basically ask the why question. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I still doing this? Why should I again do this? Why should I do it now? And if you don't have a good answer for these things, that's when we usually say, oh, we lack motivation. But we don't really lack motivation. We just lose sight of what we really want and what we really need. And there's another sentence I recently read, which is brilliant, that says, you can never get enough of what you don't really need, right? Like, if something is really not, like empty foods, like where you don't, that just don't fill you up, or like there are certain exercises that of course you can do. It's like you can be busy, but you can do then the next lick and the next lick, but it really doesn't improve your playing. So find out what that is and work towards that. That is good. Second, that's important, is we all made the experience already that when we focus on too many things, that it's very hard to see progress. So if you touch the surface on 8 different things, sometimes you don't realize that you even touched the surface. It's like you feel also like wasted time. And most of the things that we do on the drums that are coordination based, that are that have to do with muscle memory, with a certain kind of focus, and something we want to have changed in the body and our mind, you have to dig deep. You have to stay a little bit at it, and you have to really poke it for it to change. It's like cold clay that you really have to be like, oh, you have to work at it a while till you can really kind of do something with it. And so I always pick 3 things, or the general recommendation would be, don't do too much. Don't do too many things at once, because you sabotage yourself. And try to resist the urge of being, oh, but then what's about all the other things? Yeah, well, like, do those 2 things really nice first, and then you can do the other things even faster. And then you can actually even cross off those first things, which is better than doing everything a little bit. Because these insecurities will also lead to that live, you will try something and then you realize, oh shit, oh, that wasn't, I cannot really play this, because you have no overview over your repertoire. You're constantly insecure because you're never really finished something and really made it safe and really made it bulletproof. So dig deep, select just a couple of things and really do those for a period of time, and then try to get rid of distractions. And there are 2 categories which are outer distractions, so things that come from outside. This can be an open window, this can be a telephone, this can be notifications on your computer or the cat or whatever it is. And there are inner distractions, which is unfinished business of things you have to do that you just have a full mind and you can't focus, right? So a lot of that has to do with how much did you negotiate with yourself and communicate maybe with your loved ones or other commitments, that now is your practice time, and that is okay. That's really a decision for you. That is like, you know what, hey, you say to your loved one, like, hey, for the next hour, is that okay? I will be, we talked about this, and yeah, okay. Or you really have the blessing to be like, you know what, this is my time now. No one expects a call from me now. If you think about, oh, I have to write this email, write it down, get it out of your mind. Like, write it down, put the paper in front of the door so you can't forget about it. Really try. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I need every one of these gray brain cells to really make some progress on the drums, because it's challenging stuff. And a lot of times when people say they practice for 5 or 6 hours, I say like, well, I don't think so. You probably think about a cat video for an hour,
Yeah.
and then you think about emails that you should do, and then you take a break, and then so I really try to keep the practice time real practice time. Practice all the time you practice. Select a few things. Make sure these are the things that are really important things for you, and that's a good start, I would say.